I call this meeting to order. I'd like to begin by taking roll call. Committee members and administration, please confirm your attendance when I call your name. Vince Marcotte. Maria Ferraro.
Here.
Valentina Brunoni.
Here.
Jim Buscario. Christina Bursick, Manager of Planning and Development.
Here.
Ellen Burgess, Supervisor of Planning and Development.
Present.
And Ryan Tufts, Planning Technician and Secretary Treasurer to the Committee of Adjustment.
Here.
And I'm your Chairman, Teresa Nicodemo. Land Acknowledgement Statement. We acknowledge that the ground on which we live is in the traditional territory of Caldwell First Nation of the Three Fires Confederacy and the original people of Point Pelee and Pelee Island and its surrounding lands and waters, and that of the Huron-Wendat and Wyandot peoples. We recognize and respect the First Nations who are stewards of the land and waters of Turtle Island and who have embraced this stewardship since time immemorial. We would also like to acknowledge the contributions of other nearby First Nation communities and all original people across Turtle Island. The appeal notice. As a result of the provincial changes to the Planning Act, only the applicant and select agencies may appeal a decision of the committee on or one or more of the conditions which were imposed. Third-party appeals of consent and/or minor variances, such as neighbors abutting property owners, are no longer allowed to be accepted by the OLT. All applications continue to be subject to a 20-day appeal period. A written request to receive a copy of the decision and the fee for filing an appeal may be obtained from the Secretary Treasurer. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interests? Seeing none, so noted. Adoption of minutes from the March 20, 2024 meeting. Is there a motion? Moved by Maria, seconded by Vince, and all in favor, and that is carried. Mr. Tufts, are there any requests for deferral or withdrawal of any application?
None received.
So noted. The first application for consideration is B-01 2024, file 4174, and A-02 2024, file 4176. The owner is Dr. Mohammed Tabib, 1725 Sprucewood Avenue. Consent for a lot addition and a minor variance for reduced number of minimum required parking spaces. Mrs. Bursick to make a presentation on the applications.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'll just wait here for a moment for our presentation to show up on the screen, and I'll begin shortly. All right, thank you. Next slide, please. All right, so as you can see up on the screen, that highlighted in blue is the subject lands in which the applications are made for. The minor variance in particular is for 1725 Sprucewood, which is adjacent directly south of Sprucewood Avenue. And the vacant lands off of Lorne, which is the unopened right-of-way off of Newman, are the lands in which are being severed and to be a lot addition to the property as a whole, to the north. So in particular, the lands, as you can see, are south of Sprucewood and east of east of Newman. The property is within the LaSalle Town Center District in the official plan. And the zoning of the property, it's currently split zoned. The portion of 1725 Sprucewood Avenue is zoned Town Center Zone 1 with a holding symbol currently on it. And the lands known as vacant land Lorne Avenue are currently zoned Town Center Zone 2 holding symbol as well. Now if you can go to the next slide, please. Sorry, I jumped ahead a little bit. So on the left side, you can see the official plan designation as a whole area is that orange shade, which indicates the town center district, and the image to the right indicates the zoning of the parcels. As you can see, that thick kind of black line running through shows where the split is between the TC1 zone and the TC2 zone area. Now, the zoning of the land being different does not make an impact on the applications nor on the future development, and we can get into that a little bit further, but again, the development of the site is under site plan control and it's being reviewed in that regard under that application. Next slide, please. So here I tried to, I guess, fit the site plan, a snippet of the site plan to give everyone an idea of what it would look like physically fitting on the lot at total build out and total development. So the yellow portion, as you can see on the screen, is the actual building. The white portion to the right of the building is the driveway entering the site from Sprucewood Avenue, which will be developed, and the back portion of the lot is the parking lot for that building. So again, this is not perfect. This is just my little copy and paste snipping project, but just to give you an idea here, but it's probably pretty close to accurate, I would say. Next slide, please. So the request for the development here, I just wanted to explain a little bit as well, is to develop the lands for mixed use. Again, the developer is looking to develop the building which will contain both commercial office uses and residential apartment units. There will be a total of 19 apartment dwelling units within the building and about 205 square meters of commercial office ground floor area combined. And as a whole, and again, this is, we're looking at the minor variance situation here is the parking required as in a total per our zoning bylaw is 35 parking spaces. Before us, the application for minor variance is requesting a reduction of 4 spaces for a total of 31 parking spaces. That also incorporates the total land area of where the applicant is wishing to obtain the portion of land off of Lorne Avenue as part of the lot addition lands, which will then also I guess trigger, if you will, the completion of closing that green portion, as you can see up on the screen, of Lorne Avenue, which is an unopened right-of-way. And that will all combine together as one parcel then. So again, multiple items, multiple applications will trigger all this to actually combine all together, and that'll be completed through the agreement under site plan control. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, the lot addition will facilitate the merging of all the various properties. I mentioned that it's going to be 19 apartment dwelling units and 205 square meters of commercial. The reduction of 4 parking spaces in relation to the proposed use, and given the location within the town, being within the town center, it's in close proximity to amenities. There's transit station or stop, currently right outside or right out front the building. It's in walking distance and cycling to, various amenities and uses and needs and possible employment and whatnot within the area. And in addition to all of this, the applicant did also complete a parking justification report to support the requested reduction in parking spaces. And it did come out favorable, and town staff was in agreement with that parking justification report. So you can see on the bottom of the slide there the site plan image showing the parking lot area. The parking spaces with the red C on it is just for idea purposes only, indicating that those would be the spaces provided for the commercial parking, for the commercial use, but of course those uses are not planned offices to run 24 hours. So there's that opportunity for, of course, any residents after hours that would come, after working a normal 9 to 5 when the offices are closed. When they come home or have maybe some guests in the evening, that those spaces would then be extra available to be used towards the residential use. And again, that's all been further justified and explained as part of their justification report. Next slide, please. I also wanted to identify that this is something common that we do here in LaSalle. The red arrows indicate the red arrows on the slide here is just to show you and to indicate that in the future, when the neighboring sites do develop, that'll be a reciprocal access so that, again, someone either walking, say, has an access route to the neighboring site, or say for driving or what have you, that the individual doesn't need to jump back out onto Sprucewood to get to the neighboring commercial or mixed-use site. Again, because this area is in the official plan designation town center district, that this is the way the development will go in the future for these lands. This is the permitted uses here. We see this, throughout just behind us here, the Zayres parking lot, if you see, or the other areas. We have the reciprocal access all over town in these types of areas. Next slide, please. For the consent application and both the minor variant application, staff recommends approval for these applications, subject to the conditions that are up on the screen. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bursick. Dr. Tabib, owner, you may now speak to the matter. Please introduce yourself and a brief explanation of your application, and please confirm you have read and understood the staff report.
It's Mohammed Tabib. Yes, we read and understood in full the staff report, and we're in agreement with the administration recommendation. And I'm here to answer any question requested about further details.
Okay, thank you. Is anyone present or online who wants to speak to the application? Yes, please come forward and state your name. There's a button you push to turn the mic on.
Okay. My name is Christine Perry. I represent the property 1620 Normandy. And I just have a lot of questions, concerns. At this point in time, I don't really have an opinion either for or against, just some questions. So I understand the process. I understand the project. It's basically you want to sever the property 60-40 split thereabouts. I'm wondering what the town practice has been in the past, and this is directed at whoever wants to answer questions. Do we sever parcel properties on a one-off basis as they come to council? Is there criteria that you meet for each request, each application? And does this application meet that criteria? And then after that, is there a general plan for the town center? Is there a big picture? And how does this fit into that big picture? There's condos going up down Normandy, down Wyoming, down Sprucewood, all in this busy area, which is, growth is great. But if there's a plan for the future, how does this fit into the future growth? And I guess this project particularly concerning the parking places, if there's a standard number of spots that was allocated by the bylaw for each property, why are we considering a lesser amount of parking places? I understand there's been an application for a variance to be granted for that. I don't know what those acceptable limits are. They weren't made available. I'd like to see them if we can. We'd like to discuss them if we can. How does this affect parking in the area? You mentioned that some of the commercial's operations in that building will be daytime only? What if it's not? What if it's a dessert bar evening activity? There will be people there in the evening and in the daytime. There'll be a need for parking places. You can't establish today what future growth might be later. So I'm sort of concerned about allowing a parking lot variance to be granted. Those are some of my immediate questions. There's a lot of information there. And if it makes sense, why not just make a smaller residential footprint to accommodate for less parking places? There you go.
Thank you. Would someone from administration like to answer some of those questions, or?
Not a problem, Madam Chair. I'll do my best to answer the questions you asked. If there's any amiss, please let me know. But I'll leave that last question for Dr. Tabib, since it's his design and he can answer the reason for the design and the parking structure there. So I think the first question you asked for is such a severance something that is supported, I think in general, and what parameters do we look at for those types of things. So what we look at, number one, is, what does the zoning say? Is it permitted in the zoning to allow us to sever in such a way? And again, because the parcel will be consolidated with the abutting parcels, it does meet the zoning requirements for minimum size. Well, realistically, area is all we're looking at here, because the frontage will be spruce wood once it's consolidated with the parcel as a whole. I guess moving on from there, you were requesting if such a use here is the vision of the town and how we envision on the area developing. So I guess to kind of backtrack on that a little bit, the town has two major policies in which drive the way we plan and develop. The foremost being the official plan. So the official plan of the town states, this is the way we see this area to be developed and to be used in the future. The zoning goes into more particulars and will say things like the lot size, your setbacks, your height, and things of that in particular. And the use is particular as well. So in kind of going on to the future question that you had there, how do we know the number of parking spaces that are permitted? So our zoning bylaw actually speaks very specifically to that, and things such as restaurant actually require different parking spaces than office. So the development is actually very particular in permitting only the uses in which it's currently providing parking for right now, because if they were to change one of those commercial uses to something else, they may not actually have the parking available for it. So either it's going to require minor variance, or, and again, if it's approved, they'll have to go through a study again, or you're going to be stuck with finding another, someone leasing or another tenant for those commercial units within the use category that you have the parking available for. So I'll backtrack here a little bit back to our official plan. So within the official plan and our zoning bylaw, there's sections particular to LaSalle Town Center District, both designation and the town center zone. They're available on our website if you'd like to review those, but in general, I can quickly read here that this area is designed as a focal point for major retail and other associated institutional commercial development. The intent of this plan is to allow the ongoing evolution of the retail sector within the center of LaSalle's downtown to occur. Again, it goes on and on about promoting good urban design, high quality architecture, landscapes. It's to be a key destination with transit system, walkable, compact development, mixed use, all those types of things. And that's just in our official plan. And again, the zoning speaks more to the types of uses specifically. So they are available on our website for anyone to review those. And then I'm not sure if there was another question there that I maybe missed, or something that you want me to go into more particular on. If not, I think Dr. Tabib can perhaps answer the last question you had.
Yes, in regards to the question about the business use, I would like to assure the residents that the current zoning allows or it requires at least 4.25 parking spaces for every 100 square meter for other businesses. We're only seeking office use, which is limited by 3 parkings, and the relief that we're requesting stays within that envelope. Any further change of use require require providing additional parking, which is limited, and that was not the intent in the current application. The design only allows office use, and that will be limited within the space allocated in the site plan application.
Thank you. I have 2 other questions adding on. One might be a site control issue, I don't know, but I do know that on Normandy Sprucewood there are some height variances. You mentioned height is part of the process. In this particular case, would there be a grade issue between 1725 Normandy, 1620, 1610 Normandy, and how would that affect it? Second question, on your recommendation slide, there was 3 bullet points of what the items were that needed to be met in order for approval. Could you go further into those requirements and tell us what that is, rather than just bylaws and numbers?
Through you, Madam Chair, I'm just going back to that slide, so I have it up. I'm not sure if they're able to put it up on the screen. Okay, so regarding the grade, yes, that'll be determined at building permit stage. It'll be included as a part of review of site plan, but formalized and finalized at part of the building permit, so that they are responsible for reviewing the grading plans for the development. I mean, I can say just from my experience that over time, there is sometimes grading differences between parcels of land, those that are older and those that are newly developed, because of the requirements have changed over time. However, it is a responsibility of the development to do whatever it is they need to do in order to, again, contain their own runoff, and all those things, again, are reviewed under engineering drawings, building drawings, and so forth and so forth. Yeah. And then, oh, you wanted to know about so that slide that I had up, actually, if you can go to slide 8. Yes, that's the one. So there's recommendations, right, to approve, and then under that is listed 1 through 3 for both the consent, which is the B01 2024 file, and A02 2024 is the minor variance file. So yes, those are conditions that need to be met in order for us to give approval from the municipality. The consent application under the Planning Act, they have 2 years' time, as you can see, April 17, 2026. If those conditions are not completed within two years, the application does lapse. And the minor variance also has conditions, and again, that one is primarily tied to the site plan control agreement being registered on the property, right? So if for some reason the developer decides to no longer move forward with this development, that minor variance for the reduced parking, for example, won't be applied. It won't be in place.
Okay, my concern is just, is there anything adversely affecting the neighbors in there that we should be aware of that we may not be aware of at this point in time?
No. So I guess to go into more detail, under the consent B01 2024, that's just getting a legal survey redone so that the deed properly speaks to the legal description of the lands. And the item number 2 is just, again, some legal works undertaking and making sure that the lands consolidate. So no, there's no implications, no impacts to neighbors or anybody in the area.
It's very good, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Berry. Thank you, Mrs. Bursick. Does the committee have any questions for Dr. Tabib? And does the committee have any question? Oh, where? Oh, my apologies. I am so sorry. Please come up, sir. State your name. I'm so sorry. And your address, please.
Danny Curtis, 1735 Sprucewood. I'm right next door to 1725. And my concerns was the last time I came in here, a privacy fence put up, okay, and the old fence taken down. I wouldn't mind the top rails, but the rest you can dispose of it yourself. And if there's any trees that have to be cut, we can work that out between us, okay? And but right up to my evergreens in the front, that's where I'd like the privacy fence started. And from there, a chain link fence right up to the sidewalk, just like on the other side, what my other neighbor had put up. They went right across the street to Lauren Avenue, right across. My concern was there, okay, not having access to the public coming through the back, okay, of our properties. It's not our development, it's his. And with that in mind, we should get along great, okay? And so I have no other quarrel. My other neighbor behind me, okay, she's explained everything just well. And I'm fine with that as well, what she had said. And so I can't put it any plainer than that. But I wouldn't mind having a script of this sent to my house, if you don't mind, 1735 Sprucewood. And so if you just send me a script, what's been said, I appreciate it. Besides that, privacy fence, okay, the same as my neighbor has on the other side, right straight across, okay? But another thing, where do you put the garbage containers? A stupid thing to ask, but at this time, you probably don't know.
My understanding, we're not discussing the site plan, we're discussing the severance and the addition of the land in the back. That's another discussion we had
reasonable.
at that time with the site plan holding removal. And we will be working with the administration to fulfill the requirements that have been discussed in the past.
That's pretty reasonable, I think.
Thank you, Mr. Curtis. It appears to me that Dr. Tabib is very accommodating, and you have to discuss that fence issue. It's not something that...
Well, I had discussed fence issues the last time I was in here with council, okay? And so the privacy fence, just like my neighbor has on the other side of me, okay? And so I guess they had okayed it at that time, so it's just between him and council now.
Would someone from administration maybe like have a comment about that? Thank you.
So we're here today at the Committee of Adjustment meeting where we review minor variances and consent applications, and the comments that you've made are not pertaining to the minor variance or consent applications. Those are more so concerning site plan. Site plan no longer goes to council or as part of a public meeting, as it may have been in the past. So if you do have any of those kinds of concerns, your perfect day you're here, you can speak with the developer about them, or maybe get in contact with them and have a conversation at a later date to voice your concerns and your comments. And it would be up to the developer on how to incorporate those into his plan.
Well, like I said before, okay, in the last council meeting I've been to, that got discussed. I wanted a privacy fence up, just like my neighbor had put. He fit the bill himself. I had nothing to do, okay, and it worked out great for me, and it worked out great for him. If we could do the same, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, we'll discuss with the neighbors when we come into the actual construction.
Oh, is that good, Mr. Curtis? Thank you very much, Dr. Tahib. So, thank you, Mr. Curtis.
Thanks.
Thank you. Yes, yes, there's a,
Thanks.
Sorry, sir, can you just turn the mic off? Sir?
and are there any other questions? Yes, do you want to come up, sir, and state your name and address?
Can you hear me now? Sorry, I'm Frank Winea at 5930 Newman Boulevard. And I guess the extra lot that he's asking for is going to be butting up to my land. Nothing I can do about that. I just want to ask a couple of questions. Why do we have a gap here? Is this for anybody can walk there?
That's the property alley, and that's the town's alley.
That's
That's
the
not
town-
our property, yeah, that belongs to the town. It connects the alley with the back right of way all the way to Normandy.
It does go all the way to Normandy?
Yes.
So anybody from Normandy can come?
Yes, it's public property.
So then maybe let me ask Virginia, maybe you can, Christina, maybe you can answer. Why is there a gap between my property and Mr. Tabib's new property?
So there's a number of, I'll say, old existing alleyways throughout the municipality. And as you'll see, even Lauren, for example, it's an unopened right-of-way, which means one day maybe they thought to put a street there, but it's not going to be happening. So there's a number of alleys throughout the municipality that the landowners can request to close them if they're not being used for town services running through there, of course. And just like the Lauren Avenue, the request is being made officially to close a portion and purchase that portion of Lauren Avenue for the development of this site.
But wasn't Lauren Avenue closed ever since Salute Cafe closed it off with their fans?
So they closed
And
the
now
portion
Mr.
that they required. They did not close the entirety, so they would have
Yes.
closed only a portion which they required at that time.
So as you saw in the presentation earlier, there will be an access connecting Newman all the way to the back of the
So
property.
these are temporary fences?
These are temporary, but like within the parking, there is a full easement, I believe, Alan, is it 20 feet or something? Something like that, and that connects all these properties together in the back. And this alley is available for anybody to purchase. You can acquire it, anybody can acquire it, my understanding.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wanea. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to the application? And does administration, does committee have any questions for the applicant? And does the committee have any questions for administration? Yes, Ms. Vince.
When was the official plan adopted by the municipality?
Through you, Madam Chair, our current official plan was adopted in 2018.
Okay, and thank you, in the zoning bylaw.
August 2001, and we're currently in the, 2021, sorry. And we're currently about to reach the end of an appeal period for a housekeeping amendment, which is just making some minor changes throughout the document.
Thank you. If I may just speak to that, if I could. Because the question was brought up, when you look at this plan, I know what they're looking at. It looks like a hodgepodge, but it's really not. This has been designed well in advance. It's gone to public meetings several times. It's been approved for the whole municipality, and then rezoning specific. So it's not something that has just come up because of this requirement. The zoning bylaw and official plan, and the official plans have been in the municipality since the 70s. So this is really nothing new. It's just a changes to update. But just to be clear that this whole process is well thought out, is being thought out, well thought out, but it has been well thought out, has been placed, and the zoning bylaw ties into that. So with the recommendation by the administration that these have all met the guidelines that were required, it, it's pretty black and white as far as what can happen and what their options, people's options are. Those are just my comments at the moment.
Thank you, Mr. Marcotte. Having heard any comments or concerns made by administration, agencies, and the public, is the committee ready to make a decision? We'd like to call a motion first for file 4174, lot addition, provided the three conditions as per the report are met. Is there a motion? Yeah. Okay. Moved by Valentina and seconded by Jim Boscario, and all in favor? And that is everyone, and that is carried. The second file, 4176, for the minor variance, provided the three conditions are met as per the application. Is there a motion? Moved by Maria, seconded by Vince, and all in favor?
Discussion on the motion, just for a second.
Yes.
Discussion on the motion, I believe it was brought up that there was something like 30 spots were required, and then it was 35. I just want to be clear what the requirement with the required, what he's going to put in there right now, is that a requirement of 30 or, I know 31 is what he can put in. Just wanted
I'm happy to clarify. So the zoning as it stands today, based on the uses and the area of the building, the size of the building, he's required 35 spaces. He's asking for relief to reduce it down to 31. So it's 4 spaces he's requesting relief of.
And, sorry, Jim, and then question then back to administration, should he change, and that'll be done when we're going through everything, but should he change those ideas, wanting a restaurant or something like that, that could push that number up to 39, 40, 50, and that would not be acceptable.
Potentially, exactly. He would need to, whatever use he has there, would also need to abide by the zoning bylaw as an entirety, and that includes the parking regulations.
So there is protection. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marcotte. Maria Ferro has a question.
Just concerning the parking, the reduced number, the report mentions 2 accessible parking spaces. So with the reduced number of parking spaces, how does that affect the accessible parking?
It's a very good.
Or does it?
Right, that's a very good question. I guess I should have highlighted that in my presentation. They are still meeting the requirements of the accessible parking needs as if they were having the 35 total spaces. So there's no reduction in accessible parking spaces contemplated.
What is the minimum number of accessible parking?
So there's a scale. There's a scale requirement. Okay, sorry, having some mic issues. So there is a scale requirement. So if you require between 1 to 25 spaces, then you need 1 space. And as soon as your requirement is 26 to 50 spaces, then you require 2 spaces.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Maria. So file number 4176, is there a motion? Oh, it was moved by Maria, and it was already seconded by, all in favor, and that? With the recommendations, of course, yes. And so file 4176 is also approved. Thank you, Dr. Davhip. Your application has been approved. And thank you to everyone who came in today as well. The second application is B-04, 2024, file 4179, Royal Oak Luxury Builders, 360 Bouffard Road. Application for consent to sever for 2 semi-detached dwellings. Mr. Tufts, make a presentation on the severance application.
Okay, can I start at slide 9, please? So we have consent for severance to create 2 semi-detached lots at 360 Bouffard. Subject land is designated residential district in the official plan. Sorry, next slide. So the yellow is the residential district in the official plan. Next slide. And the land is zoned residential 1. Next slide. This slide shows the site plan, so it shows the lots that are going to be created to have the 2 semi-detached dwellings on it. The yellow line at the bottom shows an existing chain link fence, which would be the property line, so that's the abutting property. And then it shows the purple line would be the rear neighbor's property line, so it does show the open alley in between the existing fence and the property. Next slide. So if approved, there will be 2 semi-detached dwellings created, so 4 in total. And again, the property is zoned residential 1. In the residential 1 zone, singles and semis are permitted. Both the severed and retained lots meet the minimum requirements of the zoning bylaw, and no minor variances are required. Next slide. Should it be approved, that we would require a survey, that they pay all of their property taxes, that we have a cash in lieu of parkland dedication. They submit updated lot grading sheets for the severed and the retained. They submit as-builts for the property. They provide any easements and dedications to the town. They provide financial securities to the town, and that they have 2 years from today's date to fulfill the above conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Tufts. Paul Crema, owner agent, you may now speak to the matter. Please introduce yourself and a brief explanation of your application, and please confirm you have read and understood the staff report.
Hello, my name is Paul Crema. I have read the staff report and I agree with the recommendations in constructing the 2 townhomes. Semis. Sorry.
Thank you. Anyone present or online who'd like to speak to the applicant? Yes, please come up, sir, and state your name, or madam, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
There's 2 of you who want to speak afterwards. Another, is that true, sir? You had your hand up as well? No, my mistake.
Cheryl Doyle, and I abut the property. Can we pull up because I just have a few questions regarding where the buildings are going to be put as to where the chain link fence is. Like I'm a little bit.
Could you please speak into the microphone?
I'm
You can
sorry.
move it down if you like. Thank you.
Okay, so where the chain link fence currently is, so they're going, the purple line is where their building is going to be, or the 2 semis, correct? No?
Property line.
Or the property line, okay, so
Yeah.
how far to the chain link fence or that property line will the back of these semis go? Because you have properties that you've built on Huron, which I've seen. The fences, or excuse me, the back of the house appears to be like a good distance, but the stairs coming down from the balcony are like maybe 5 or 6 feet from that chain link fence separating the back properties. The semis are great, like they're beautiful, but they're also being built as like, it's 4 units with the ability to be 8. I just feel like it's going to be overextending into the property, like just my privacy.
These are a lot longer than here. These are deeper lots than here. These are deeper lots than we built on Huron, so you'll have more room.
So would
And we're
I,
also going to abide by the setbacks that are set out by the town.
my other concern is that there is also a tree that's in the, which side is it? Northwest side, I believe. That I have a concern, like I've already had issues with this tree when there's been inclement weather, and with the building and the digging in the ground disrupting the roots, if it's going to cause any more possible, damage coming down onto my property. Like, I just have these concerns with the build.
Mr. Crema, can you speak to that? It's on, if it does concern you?
On the matter of the tree, you're asking?
Yes. Otherwise, Ms. Doyle, we really are only here for a severance of a lot. We're not really here to discuss, the trees are in question. I'm sure the lot has to be cleared, but I don't even know whose property it's on. Would you know, Mr. Crema?
I believe it is on our property, the tree she's speaking of, but it's been there for years. And I think we did actually trim a couple of the branches on it already that were low hanging.
Okay, well, thank you. Any other concerns?
Well, just the ability to put like 4 units on what I believe is a smaller footprint, like.
So this lot is actually a bigger footprint than we put the exact units on Huron Street. So this will have more room. Yes.
Can I take you to the bank on that?
100%. They're the same size units.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who wants to speak on the application? Does committee member have any questions for Mr. Crema? Does committee member have any questions for administration? Valentina?
Yeah, I just want to clarify, are we going to be approving, like the red severances as like 2 blocks, or?
So what's going to be happening is 2 semis will be built, so in total 4 lots will be created.
So it's going to be 4 individual parcels of land?
Correct.
So when they start building the semi, do they, that middle line can potentially change a little bit depending on where the middle of the unit is, or no?
It won't change. So
Oh,
they'll
it
have
won't?
nope, they'll have their surveyor on site to verify that the center line of the dwelling meets that mark
Okay.
on the survey.
So that's what I wanted to make sure. So we're basically approving the 4 individual parcels of land. Okay.
Correct.
Yes, Vince?
We didn't have these in my day. The setbacks, front, back, side, that's meeting regular setbacks, so her concern of being far back, it's still going to have a rear yard range, the same as, well, in R1 zoning. Is that correct? So and they can't drive the stairwell way back, it has to stay within that, does it not?
So they will have to meet the minimum requirements for the residential 1 zone for the main building. The deck and stairs are able to encroach into the rear yard setback.
But not as much as they want, or can it be?
I believe it is 8 meters. There are limitations to it that they'll have to follow, but you are able to encroach into a rear yard with a deck and an exterior staircase.
Thank you.
For administration, there's 4 lots here. What is the side yard requirement in the zoning bylaw?
The minimum is 5 feet.
5 and 5, they're roughly roughly 33 feet each, so your dwelling's going to be about 23 feet wide, give or take. Is that correct?
I haven't seen the design, but they've built the similar unit on Huron Street, so I would imagine it would be the same size as that, which meets the requirements.
Okay, no, I just, because whenever you get these, you just want to make sure that everything fits, you know, and I can see the concerns that some people would have, but no, that's fine. Thank you.
Having heard any comments or concerns made by administration, agencies, and the public, is the committee ready to make a decision on file 4179 as per the recommendations provided? Is there a motion? Okay. Moved by Jim and seconded by Valentina, and all in favor? And that is everyone, and that is carried. Thank you, Mr. Cromwell. Your application is approved. Thank you. Next application, Timberland General Contractors, 5770 Mullen Road. Application for consent to create one new lot for an apartment-style building that is under construction, fronting on Wyoming Avenue. Mr. Tufts, make a presentation on the severance application.
Okay, so we have a consent application to sever one lot for an apartment-style building. Next slide. The subject land is designated LaSalle Town Center in the official plan. Next slide. And the subject land is zoned Town Center, or Town Center Zone 1 and Town Center Zone 2 in the zoning bylaw. Next slide. This slide was provided by the applicant. It shows the severed and the retained land. The severed land is where the apartment-style building is currently under construction. Next slide. The way that these two buildings were designed, they were designed and developed to allow the division of land without the need for any further variances or rezoning applications. There is an existing site plan control agreement that's been registered and is in good standing. Both the severed and the retained parcels meet all of the zone requirements, and no further minor variances are needed. Next slide. Should it be approved, we would require a survey and that they have 2 years to fulfill that condition.
Thank you, Mr. Tufts. Kevin Miller, agent, you may now speak to the matter. Please introduce yourself and a brief
hear me?
explanation of your application, and please confirm you have read and understood the staff report.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we have read and agree with the report and the conditions that are outlined. Mr. Tufts has explained the application quite thoroughly, and I'm here to answer any questions if the committee has one.
Thank you. Is anyone online who would like to speak to the application? Does the committee have any questions for Mr. Miller? And does the committee have any questions for administration? Having heard any comments or concerns made by administration, agencies, and the public, is the committee ready to make a decision? Is there a motion? Moved by Vince, seconded by Maria. All in favor? That's everyone. That is carried. Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Thank you.
The next meeting is Wednesday, May 22nd, 2024. Is there a motion to adjourn? Moved by Maria, seconded by Vince. All in favor? And that's everyone. That's carried, and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.